Did you know children of domestic violence households are 3 times more likely to repeat the cycle of abuse when they become adults? In stark contrast, there was a study done at the Uppsala University in Sweden that confirmed that other people's smiles suppress the control we have over our own facial muscles, compelling us to smile. Maybe that's what Mother Teresa was thinking when she said, "I will never understand all the good that a simple smile can accomplish." Today, I'm talking to you about the Hitler and Lincoln that lives within. How we are models of influence. Now, just like I explained with Mother Teresa, we can be positive, we can be negative models of influence. I've been coaching for about 8 years now, young athletes, and I've seen firsthand how I have an influence over them and how they have an influence over me. Let me give you an example. I was coaching a couple years back. I was teaching my kids, and I had this phrase that I never noticed that I said, but I said it a lot. And the kids picked up on it. Anytime one of my athletes were doing a skill that I told them to do, or a drill or a strength exercise, if they messed up or if they didn't do it the way I expected, I'd say, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Get it right." And so apparently I've been doing that a lot. Well, I'm watching my students, and I pair 2 of these young boys together, and one of the young kids does the skill and messes up. And immediately the other kid jumps up on him and he says, "What are you doing? Get it right." And I just had to take a step back, and I was dumbfounded, realizing, wow, he didn't learn that from his parents. He learned that from me. It was at that moment I started to realize how much influence I have over people, how much influence they have over me too. So today, I'm talking about models of influence, and the 3 things I really want to go over with you is, 1, what exactly a model of influence is. Secondly, how are we models of influence and why that matters. And then lastly, how we can be better models of influence. So, first off, what are models of influence? A model of influence can be a person. It could be like Hitler or Abraham Lincoln. It could be someone who gravitates much positivity and good change, as we could argue Oprah Winfrey, Abraham Lincoln, and Jesus did. Or it could be negative change, and it could be adversity, as in Hitler. But it's more than that. Models of influence are not just people, but they are our actions, our words, our thoughts, and our deeds. That is the meaning of a model of influence. It's a twofold meaning. So, how are we models of influence? Why does it matter? 1, how are we? If you are a parent, a coach, a sibling, coworker, it doesn't matter. If you're around people, you're a model of influence. The only way this wouldn't apply to you is perhaps if you were an orphan in a jungle named Mowgli. That's about the only way. But if you're around people, you have influence over them. Why does it matter? Have you ever gone into work dreading it? Have you been around people that are negative? It has a negative impact on your life. Negative, by negative I mean a bad output for you at that time. It's something that affects you in a way that is not good for you, that's not uplifting. And by positive I mean putting up, doing good. So that's how we are models of influence. Think of yourself, think of what roles you play as a model of influence, and you can see why that matters. So lastly, how can we be better models of influence? 1, who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with good people that love one another and are uplifting, that's what you're going to become. You will become positive and uplifting. In contrast, if you're negative, you'll become a negative person. If you're around negative people, that's what you will mold into. Quick story. When I was younger, I lived in Tennessee. We lived on 15 acres out in the country, and we had a pond. Now, we had to clean that pond every day. Mom would say, go out there, clean the pond. It's dirty again. We'd go out there, clean it, and each day would be dirty again. So finally I got fed up, and I followed the pond. There was a stream that connected it, and when I got to the end of the stream, I realized it was connected to a much larger pond, a cow pond. That's why it was always dirty. Their filth would come on in, and Mom would say, well, get out there and clean it. So that's kind of an example. I think of that story, and it reminds me of how other people, even though they're not you, they're not in your life specifically, but they're around you. And though their thoughts, their ideas, their actions, they sink into your own life. And it molds you into the person you are. So, in conclusion, are you a good influence? Or are you a bad influence? We all have a Hitler, we all have a Lincoln within us. We all have a positive and negative side. But we get to choose. We get to decide what that will be. We get to decide who we will become and how we affect others. Let me close with a short story here of how I was positively affected. A few years back, I knew this girl, and I worked with her, and every day I would come into work, she would always greet me, always, with a big smile. She would want to know how I was doing, just that small act. Every day, she would always do that. It meant a lot. Well, one day, she is at work, and her boss is just chewing her out. If you've ever had a pep talk by your boss, your manager, you know what she's feeling. She's chewing her out, just telling her all these nasty things about what she did wrong. And I walk in on the aftermath of this, and she's crying, and there's tears in her eyes, and she looks at me, and through those tears, she still smiles at me. And to this day, I'd moved away, but to this day, I still remember her. And this is years ago, and how much of an influence she made. And I think of that every time I'm having a bad day. I think about how I can smile and make someone else's day better. So that's a little bit about models of influence. My name is Bo Igarashi. Thank you.